Now, the next thing I'd like to tell you is that there are lots of different alternative syntaxes that we can use inside Python that have slightly different effects. So for one thing, if you don't want to have a whole bunch of code eating up your screen, print math.comb of this can start to get to be a lot to type. And so one thing we have the ability to do is create an alias for the name of the module we're importing. If we use the turtle library as an example, suppose we don't want to write turtle.square, turtle.circle, turtle.forward every single time. What we can do after our import turtle command, we can add the reserve word as, and what follows as would be an alias that we want to use, a new variable name, to stand in for the word turtle in all that follows. So without the as t written right here, line 3 of our code would need to say turtle.circle of radius 100 in order to create this circle over here on the right. However, if we're going to be drawing lots and lots of shapes and accessing all sorts of turtles commands as we keep going, and we don't want to write turtle every single time, we can import turtle as t, and then everywhere we would have written turtle before, we can just type a T. So this is a very helpful shortcut when what you want to do is import all of the things from a particular module and you don't want to have to write this over and over again. When importing something like the turtle module, we often want access to all of the things that come along with that module. However, sometimes we import modules where we don't really want everything they have to offer. Mathematics is a hugely vast field, and we don't necessarily need every tool from mathematics when we just need some of the tools that are found in the math module. So another thing that we can do, which is considered a fairly good programming practice, is to be more efficient and more reserved in the things that we import. So for example, if all we wanted from the math module was the combination and permutation functions, maybe instead of importing the whole math module, we'd like to go to the math module and only import those two functions, comb and perm. Now, one of the benefits of doing this is when we've only imported a few commands, we don't have to take up a whole bunch of processing speed by importing a lot of things. The second reason that we might want to do this is it allows us to drop the prefix of the module name. So when we only import these functions, now it's the functions that have been imported, not the whole module. And if I want to compute the combination of two things, I no longer have to write math.comb and put this here. I just need to write comb. And last but not least, I can even combine ideas from the previous two slides, and I can import only specific functions with abbreviations. So what I've done here is from the math module, I've imported the comb function as C. I've also imported the perm function as P. And I get the same effect as everything I've seen on the previous slides by now only calling C of 31.4 instead of math.comb of 31.4 or comb of 31.4. So I can even import only specific functions and create aliases for them using combinations of the words from, import, and as. I do want to give you one word of warning about importing only specific functions or objects from a module, and that warning is that you are only allowed to use what you have imported. For example, I've gone the strong route here of going to the math module, importing a specific function from the math module called comb, and I've created an alias for that command, and that alias is C. You can see from what's executed over here on the right that the first line of code, line 3, is executed correctly without any complications, where I've called that function by the alias that I've created for it. In line 4, you can see the little red squiggles of death underneath COM 314, even though I've imported COM. And the reason for that is I've totally overridden this name when I've created this alias. And so this COM has not been defined by my program. Similarly, if I try to go to the math module and import something else like the value of pi, I get red squiggles here as well. The reason is the same. I have not imported the whole math module. All I have imported and am allowed to use from the math module is the COM function, and I can't even refer to it as COM. I've forced myself throughout the rest of my entire document to need to refer to it as C. So you just need to be aware when you're importing things. If you create an alias, you need to use it and use it always. And if you import only specific functions from a module, those are the only functions you're allowed to use. Those complications aside, once you've imported a module or just bits and pieces from that module, you can use them anywhere throughout your document as frequently as you'd like, and you can have them interact with all sorts of other things, including functions you may have imported from other modules. And it's a really fun thing to explore all the different amazing and wonderful modules that exist in Python. Some of my most favorite are listed here. There's a module called Beautiful Soup, which is one of the modules you can use for web scraping if you want your program to access various websites and be able to pull information off of those websites. Two packages you can use if you're really into gaming and want to create games that you can play with Python are Pygame and tkinter. If you're interested in pulling data from Google Maps or studying geographical questions, maybe things about global warming, you can use GIS web services. There's a module called Pillow that helps you parse natural language. And then there are some data science modules down here that get used very frequently. Matplotlib for Mathematics Plotting Library. That's a module that we'll spend some time with because that helps you graph things in Python. Some specific humorously named libraries for data science that get used all the time are NumPy and Pandas. So you could really go down a rabbit hole and spend a lot of time importing all sorts of amazing libraries. But you do want to keep in mind not to get carried away. It is true that I can import the square root function from the math library and I can take square roots that way, but if you don't need to fish with dynamite, you don't have to. Remember that Python does build in some real power in its operations, and you could compute square roots by using the built-in exponential notation and a 0.5 power. But all in all, it's very exciting to be using Python modules so we can take our programs from what we've seen to some beautiful applications like drawing some beautiful spirograph designs, to representing real-world data in aesthetically pleasing, powerful ways. So using modules is very exciting. We're about to be able to expand our programs from little things to big things, and it's a really great tool to have in your arsenal.